Salute, listen, and pay attention. It's the Straight Report, a weekly worldwide uncensored commentary on vital topics and epic truths that have been manipulated, diluted, and systematically restricted from mainstream media until right freaking now. I am your host, Bennie Foster. It's the Straight Report with no chaser. Wherever you are, we're live worldwide. Tap and tune in. Make sure you go ahead and share and like this broadcast. We have a great story tonight. Jackson, then and now. And I got none other than my brother from another mother, Laimond Dismuke, in the building. Some of you know him as Skeeter B. This is a young man that literally took me in when I moved from Madison, Mississippi to the city of Jackson. I didn't know anyone. Only boy with 3 girls, mom very protective, and him and a few others in the neighborhood actually took me in as a brother, and we've been brothers ever since. And we recently have been reconnected here in the city of Jackson, so we got a lot to talk about. We had different journeys that have now brought us back together, and we want to share with you guys some of the things that we had to share amongst each other since we've been back. Some disappointments that we shared, some triumphs that we shared, and yet us both realizing that we got to roll up our sleeves now and be impactful here in the city of Jackson, supportive here in the city of Jackson, and take action here in the city of Jackson as concerned citizens. So, ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you are, I want you to show some love, throw some hearts, throw some likes or something for my brother, my friend, brother Laimond Dismuke. Laimond, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Pleasure to be here, brother.
Hey, man, how you feeling tonight, man? I know that you told me that you're really not privy to these type of things, that these things are new for you. But how does it feel to be in the spotlight tonight, man, being able to have this conversation?
I think one of the things we talked about originally when I was coming from Dallas to Jackson was about growing, me growing as an individual. To be honest with you, man, and transparent as I possibly can be, fear is always kind of somewhat stifling me. And I knew in order for me to grow and reach to the next level, I had to hook up my boy Bennie Foster because, I told you this story. Remember I told you the story once before? You asked me, man, where you been all these years? And like every time you called me, I would always, say wherever I was, but I ran from you. And I told you the reason I ran from you because I knew you were going to challenge me to be the best skeeter I could be. It's not saying I didn't want to do that. It's just that, it's like this, and I tell you every day, I have to learn how to be uncomfortable. Learn how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's what you challenge me to do every day, brother. Learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And then once I become comfortable, seeking out other things that are uncomfortable and getting comfortable with them. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what we do, man, where we are.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, man. Let's go ahead and jump in, man. We got about 7 minutes and 30 seconds with this first segment left. Let's talk about Powell Middle School. So me coming from Madison, Mississippi, I tell people the story that I graduated middle school twice. I graduated 8th grade because it was 6 through 8 at Rosa Scott Middle School. Okay. And then I came to Powell Middle School, connected with you guys, and I graduated 9th grade again and went on to Callaway. Okay. What are some of the things that you remember at Powell Middle School, which is somewhat of a milestone for us? We went from middle school to high school. There were some things that changed from middle school to high school. What are some things that come to mind when you think about the city of Jackson, us in middle school, having that momentous occasion of moving from middle school to high school? But what happened from that middle school to high school area that you feel like could be noticed and somewhat brought out tonight?
Middle school, man, listen, I remember it was a blast, man. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of camaraderie. I think one of the biggest things that I remember about middle school is learning other neighborhoods and kind of like in Compton, because all I ever really knew was Bel Air and Grove Park. And by going, I'm Verdant Edition as well, and President Hill, because that's where my family was from. But going to Powell, I noticed other neighborhoods and started to learn other people in the neighborhoods, like, Valley North, Woodhaven, Woodley, the other part of, I think, Lake Hyco and all those other areas, and just getting to know those individuals and encompassing it in our lives. Because, you guys, and I did as well, befriended a lot of those. We played basketball together. I tried to play football, but my daddy told me I had to keep my nephew, so I couldn't play football. And so, but just, playing basketball, man, and just having a lot of fun, just being a kid. I tell you what, being a kid, a pre-teenage kid, is what I remember the most about middle school.
So how's that shift when we go to Callaway? Tell me how that shifts. Is it because Powell was so close in proximity to Bel Air, where we grew up at?
Yeah.
Or was it that now we were with the big boys? We were crabs, we were freshmen. Let's talk about that transition from middle school, you said fun and games,
Sure.
venturing out to other neighborhoods, to now going to Callaway.
I think for me, man, for some reason I placed a lot of pressure on myself. I felt as though, because like yourself and you know, I'm gonna just use his name, Rodney, you guys were kind of venturing off even more, meeting other people in the neighborhood and in other neighborhoods, let me say it like that. And I kind of wanted to stay close to home. I wanted to do what was comfortable and stay around and only maybe befriend the guys in the neighborhood. I'm not saying anything was wrong with that, but I think that was part of my initial stunting in my growth, not willing to put myself out there. And for me, man, to be honest with you, high school was just a lot of pressure. I mean, I probably never told you before. It was a lot of pressure for me, you know, knowing where I fit in, where to fit in. Because I knew I fit in Bel Air, but then on top of that, why did I need to fit in anywhere other neighborhood? And so those challenges kind of got the best of me in high school. So I really didn't enjoy it as much as you and probably Rodney and a couple other cats in the neighborhood. But that's my experience, man. And then also the gangs. You know, the gang kind of started, and because of the neighborhood you were in, you kind of got positioned in those gangs even though you weren't in the gang. And so it got to a point where, you know, you come home from school and you don't know whether or not you're going to be fighting today, and you couldn't go to different other neighborhoods
anymore.
Yeah, you couldn't go to the games.
That happened around 9th, 10th grade, 11th, 12th grade, right?
Especially
10th, 11th grade.
Yeah.
10th and 11th grade, that shift happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
That shift happened of the street gangs,
Absolutely.
The Vice Lords, the Black Pea Stone Rangers, the Gangster Disciples, the Disciples, all these different gangs came to the city of Jackson. And like you said, even if you weren't in the gang, your neighborhood was associated with, if there were 10 to 15 Vice Lords in your neighborhood, you were considered to be in Vice Lord territory. Whether you wanted to be or not.
Like us, we in Bel Air. So if you were a Vice Lord or whatever you were, I'm friends with you. So we go out somewhere, of course, I'm out with Bennie Foster here, or whatever, or gangster, whatever you are, I'm going to be affiliated. It's almost guilt by association. So
yes.
It was that kind of thing.
So that brought an additional pressure to you.
Absolutely.
Brought an additional pressure to me. Even though I was playing basketball and playing track, you know, our good brother, our good classmate Martin, one of our advisory council members. Martin Perkins. He said, Brother Martin.
Big Perk.
Brother Martin said that, Benny, I like you because you F with everybody. I don't want to say the word, but he was like, you were on the basketball team, you were cool, you ran track, you were popular, but you F'd with everybody. Meaning I dealt with everybody, I talked to everybody, I never treated anybody. And when he said that to me, it kind of like really helped me understand that even though I did deal with other people all the time, I just saw this on social media.
Okay.
I saw that a young man, somebody said that this is the buddy bench.
The who?
The buddy bench, B-U-D-D-Y, the buddy bench.
Okay, gotcha.
And he said that was at his child's school, and that was the bench that a kid sat at when they felt like they didn't have anyone to play with. And whenever the other kids saw someone sitting on that bench, they would then come and sit down with them.
They'd have named that bench after me.
The young man told his son, he said, wow, that's cool. He said, yeah, I sat there when I first came, and somebody came and played with me. You know, and so we didn't have buddy benches, is what I'm saying.
The peer pressure word wasn't prevalent back then. There wasn't no such thing as peer pressure.
We didn't know what peer pressure was, but it was peer pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can literally remember the altercation that happened in high school that I mentioned to the people before, where I was literally jumped at a party, first of all because I was in their neighborhood, but something that happened at the school where I was told, hey, don't speak to that guy. And I'm like, you know, because as Martin said, I dealt with everybody.
Sure.
And so I'm just walking down the hall speaking. I'm a basketball player, I'm a track star. Do we have some comments? Yes, guilt by, thank you, Lisa, guilt by association. I love the buddy bench, amen. And so I literally was just minding my business at school. And it's kind of weird because I can associate that same pulling on my coattail, brother Laimond, of how even in the education system, I was one day just doing my job, and someone tried to pull my coat and say, hey, sign this paper, and the paper didn't pertain to me. And it's like, Benny doesn't like when he's minding his business. There's a saying, somebody said it couldn't be done. You know, don't interrupt those those that said it couldn't be done don't interrupt those who are doing it.
Okay.
And so when I'm doing my thing and people then felt like, oh, it can't be done, don't interrupt me. I get discombobulated. So in about 20 seconds, tell me something that stuck out with you in high school that kind of like seared in your brain, and we're going to talk about it when we come back from the segment. You got 20 seconds.
I think that was my first initial drug use that really stood out. And I'm thinking about, you know, how high school was and how I, you know, started using drugs.
Was it peer pressure?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we'll go into the break and I'll talk about it on the way back.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know it's the Straight Report. This is a weekly worldwide uncensored commentary on vital topics and epic truths that have been manipulated, diluted, and systematically restricted from mainstream media until right freaking now. You're tapped in, you're locked in. It is the Straight Report. I'm your host, Bennie Foster. I have my brother from another mother, Laimond Dismuke.
Absolutely.
He's in the building tonight, and we're going to crack open some of the things that make Jackson how it is right now.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
And we're live worldwide. You're back, tapped and tuned in with the Straight Report, No Chaser. Your host, Bennie Foster. I'm here with my brother, Laimond Dismuke, who him and I recently got reconnected after being high school graduates, classmates, class of 1987, Charger, baby, Callaway High School. You know it, we beat up on everybody.
Orange and blue.
Back in the day. Listen, Laimond and I were just discussing how some things began to change back in 84, 85, around the time we were in 9th, 10th, 11th grade at Callaway High, how the gangs came in, how the drugs came in. And he literally was saying on the last segment that that's when he began, through peer pressure, to begin to use drugs. Now, this whole episode or this whole show tonight would not be concentrating on that, but I'm glad that he's transparent enough to share with you guys that sometimes it starts in the most subtle of ways. So I remember Laimond, and Laimond never heard me say this, but I told people I never really saw Laimond carry a book. But Laimond always had good grades. He always had great grades from what I know of. Now, he may have had an F snuck in there, because don't nobody brag about no Fs.
I better not.
But,
gonna lie to that.
But he always had good grades from what I remember, and he always was had class participation, and he always was an outgoing person. And what Laimond didn't know, that a lot of people looked up to him for leadership. This came out later in life. He had no idea. But a lot of people, including myself, still see him as a leader, as a great leader. And I'm glad to have him back in my circle, and I'm glad to be back in his circle. And so I want everyone to understand that when we go into this next, this segment, that something happened right around high school when we all were excited about going to Jackson State. I personally didn't find out I was going to Jackson State until like March of my senior year, that I got a track scholarship. I had several offers, but I wanted to go to Jackson State. Had never been on Jackson State campus, had never seen the boom, had no idea what the Masons were, the Omegas, the fraternities that I ended up being a part of. I had no idea. I just knew that everybody was going to college, and so Laimond, my peer pressure was going to college. I was excited about going to college, and you went with me, but something happened. Something happened to where I think the first semester, second semester, you had to drop out. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was working at Sunflower at the Jackson Mall, right where we are now, next door. And I cut my finger off on a meat saw, trying to show my cousin how to to cut some pork neck bones. But let me retract something. I initially said that peer pressure led me into using marijuana, but let me retract that, because when I think about it, it wasn't peer pressure, it was Skeeter pressure. Skeeter, a part of Skeeter wanted to fit in. He felt like whatever a person thought what he was supposed to be doing, that's what he did, because he wanted to fit in, and he wanted to be liked, and he wanted to belong. And so when I hear the word peer pressure sometimes, I think it's somebody actually kind of encouraging you to do that, but nobody ever encouraged me. I just thought that's what I was supposed to do to fit in. But back to the finger cutting. And so going to school and working, you're going to school all day and then working in the evening, I didn't have a lot of time to hang out. And boy, when I cut my finger, boy, that gave me a multitude of time, because not only was I off work, I was out a whole semester from school because I cut my right finger, so I couldn't write. And so part of that was me taking off that semester from school, and I think that catapulted me into another level of drug use.
So that was while you were a student at Jackson. What was your major at Jackson State?
Business management.
Business management.
Ironically,
mine was business management originally as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to be a business management major because growing up as a kid, my partner Rodney had an uncle named Carl who we both looked up to, and Carl was an accountant. I just remembered, I remember we helped Carl move and all the things we did with Carl, and Carl, spent a lot of time with Rodney and I, and Carl was an accountant, and I don't know about Rodney, I think he may have said it as well, but I wanted to grow up and kind of be like Carl. And so that's what led me into wanting to be an accountant or in a business major, business management major.
Awesome, but things got a little derailed and off track when you cut your finger. And I honestly knew that when you left, I just figured that you will always be back, like you'll be back after your hand healed. And somewhere along the line, you and I lost contact.
Absolutely.
Around that time, we didn't have cell phones. The cell phones came about 5 years later, I think, about 5, 6 years later. And so I'm just finding out from my prep for the show that you ended up being in Carthage, and a few years later, after I graduated from Jackson State, I ended up in Atlanta. And we always tried to find each other. We always tried to connect. I think we connected at our 10-year class reunion, but there were some things that happened in between that. You leaving Jackson State, me staying. And while I was at Jackson State, I want everyone to understand something. Even though I was from Jackson and in Jackson, being on Jackson State campus, being around the campus, staying in different homes and apartments around the campus, I literally was immersed in Jackson State. It was like I was in a whole nother world. So when your students or your children are in college, it's like they're in a whole nother world. And sometimes there's a culture that you get adapted to that you literally love the nurturance of that culture because you may not have had that culture until you got there. And so that was somewhat my addiction. Changed majors a few times, wanted to help people all the time, from business to social work to having to do community service and falling in love with education. I changed my major 3 times. I sat out two times, one from blowing my knee in the SWAC finals in Texas 1 year, and then the other time when I had my oldest daughter. But yet I still got my degree eventually, and then I moved to Atlanta. But during that time, you were in Carthage. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, as I said before, after I cut my finger off, I started hanging out. I know a lot of people are going to remember this. I started hanging around on the strip more. Oh, man.
Strip, Johnny B's.
All of it, the whole thing.
Mr. B's, I'm sorry.
From the Sunset all the way back to 49, man, I became a strip baby. Like they said bar babies, I was a strip baby. And a part of their lifestyle was a lot of drugs, man, a lot of drugs, man, and all that came to that lifestyle. And so I got lost in the drugs. And so my mom came to me one day and she said, listen, something happened at the house, and I'm not gonna go into details, but something happened at my mother's house, and she felt like it would be better for me to go and live with my uncle in Carthage. And of course, my Uncle Charles has passed away now, but as I think back today, man, I was really, really grateful of having the opportunity to move to Carthage, because, one thing I will say about my life, God has always placed people in my life to kind of give me an idea of which way I want to go or the road to take. And that's exactly what happened to me in Carthage, even though later on I got involved in drugs again. But initially going there with kind of like, feeling lost. I met a really good friend of mine today, John Marshall, man, and just watching John and mimicking John and his lifestyle at the time, man, I felt like, well, you know what, I want to be just like this brother here. And so, yeah, that's what happened when I first initially got to Carthage.
So I'm hearing some things. I'm hearing some words. of you wanting to be like role models. So,
sure,
so I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, right? But here's the thing I want to ask you. You keep saying that you were comfortable or that you were uncomfortable. And so you acknowledged that you were comfortable. And I love the way you retracted and said it wasn't peer pressure, it was skeeter pressure.
Yeah, it was skeeter. I put that
It was
pressure on myself.
on yourself. But yet you were still concerned about how people would receive you and accept you.
I like that word.
And I'm telling you now that everyone did. Everyone
Yeah,
loved
that's the
being
crazy
around
part.
you.
30
That's
years
the
later, I
crazy
found it
part.
out. Yeah.
30-something years later, after trial and error, after strengthening, conditioning, and cultivating of your life through all of those trials, all those tribulations, and all those challenges that you face, you now understand. I got this visual. I tell people, look at a dog chasing his tail. Look at a dog. Everyone can visualize a dog chasing his tail right now. Why is a dog chasing his tail? His tail's supposed to wag behind him as he walks, but yet he's focused at something that is there, but it's behind him. And it won't leave, it's gonna be there. You can't do anything about it unless somebody, of course, cut it off like a pit bull or something. But this dog has his tail, and this tail is used for balance. This tail is used for all different things with that dog that, you know, some things we probably don't even know unless we research it, but it's part of the dog's anatomy, right? And that dog is focused on something instead of straightening up and going forward. And that's what a lot of us do sometimes. We chase that tail.
Mine was chasing my behind. I screwed it all up. Black as I am, mine was white. So yeah.
And so at the end of the day, you said that. So I'm thinking mentorship. You always had mentors, Laimond. You always had people that you looked up to.
Didn't use the word, but yes, absolutely.
We had no idea mentorship existed at this time.
Absolutely.
But let me ask you something. What do you feel like you needed from them? Because did they know that you looked up to them? Did you open your mouth? Did you say to them? Did you make yourself available to say, I want you to tutor me. I want to be a disciple. I want to be a student. I want to learn from you. Did you make that connection, or was it just you watching vicariously from afar?
Vicariously, listening to you. I'm not finna go up there and tell nobody that. Not back then anyway. I don't think I was comfortable enough. I did mention it to John. Yeah, absolutely. I did mention it to John. But here's what like I said earlier, no, I didn't acknowledge them as mentors, but here's what I did. I acknowledged them as, I use this analogy sometimes, you know, I love medieval movies, right? And life is like that medieval bridge with the planks in it, with the holes in it, and as you're walking the bridge of life, those planks or those holes are there, right, where the planks are missing. And I'm a firm believer that God places those people in those holes so we won't fall through. And so what I said, filling in the holes, we call it mentorship today, or mentors. And so God placed mentors in my life at every step, where whenever I guess, chased my tail and fell off, He placed a mentor in my life. So when I started like you now, like I started my life again, there was somebody there to say, because this is the question you asked me. I am not a person, in all honesty, I'm not a person that comes up with all these great ideas. I think I remember doing my personality test, and personality test says I am a doer. Once I am assigned, no, I'm a taskmaster. Once I'm assigned a task, then I'm on it.
I've seen it.
I'm on it.
I've seen it.
But there are times that I'm just not, I can, but it's what I tell you what, my ideas are not ideas that are going to get me to this omnipotent level that some are on. But I tell you what, give me the task of doing so, oh yeah, I'm going to get there.
But see, that's important because one of the things that I feel like the city of Jackson needs, which we're going to get into in a future segment, we're coming up for another break right now. I feel like there are several things, top three things. For me, we're gonna get your top three in a minute. That Jackson need effective leaders.
Okay.
Those effective leaders need effective team members that are working on their team, and we also need effective community leaders, and those community leaders need effective teams or partners that they're working with. Because the problem is that I think too many people are trying to carry the weight of their position on their shoulders, and that's not good leadership.
Sure.
So before we come back to this next segment, give me a thought. Can you put in the subject line, what does Jackson need now? See you.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Come on back up in here. Come on, y'all. Listen, the Straight Report, no chaser. We here with the Raw tonight. We here talking to native son of Jackson, Mississippi, telling you his journey, telling you how now he's landed right back here to make a difference. Doesn't matter the highs and lows of the journey. It matters that he's here. So I asked the question before we left the last segment. What are your right here, right now needs to happen in Jackson? What's your right here, right now? You guys can put it in the comments if you're watching. Brother Laimond, what's your right here, right now needs to happen right here, right now in Jackson to make Jackson better? We still got the top three, but what's your right here, right now? What's your pinned point right now?
You know, I don't know if we ever talked about it. I have a master's in public leadership, and part of the public leadership curriculum is those advocating for those who are less vocal, the small voices in the crowd. So Jackson needs more public leaders to go into those neighborhoods to figure out the voices of what they want, and then putting them at the table with the people who can get it done or get it done.
Wow. Well, you know, my personal mantra is to serve, protect, and advocate for those who can't serve, protect, and advocate for themselves.
Okay.
I'm a bridge. I'm not the plane. I'm not the train. I'm a bridge. Therefore, those entities that you know of that we have as far as business, economic opportunity for young adults and the old and the more mature. I don't like to say old. You know, I got these. Yeah, I'm old.
Me too.
But we have economic opportunities with logistics, constructions, trade and skill, and we're creating more opportunities each and every day. So we can stop saying, I wish that they'll put the guns down. I wish that they'll change their mindset. I wish that they'll do this. You can't ask them to do that and not give them something. You can't take something from someone and don't replace something in that place. So we have to give them an alternative. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to figure out now what's your part. And the reason I say what's your part is because I'm going to ask you guys something now. Here we go, Brother Laimond. Your bad, your ugly, and good of Jackson right now. Your bad, ugly, or good.
I think the bad for me is
bad, ugly, and good.
Sure, yeah. I start out with the bad. Or should I start with the good?
Bad.
Okay.
Bad.
Start with the bad. Vacant houses, man, that's bad. You know, and I know that may be really minute, but the vacant houses. And I'm gonna lead off into why. The ugly would be, of course, the streets. The good would be, you ready for this? You and I are here. And the reason I say the bad and ugly is we're in Dallas, part of anything when it comes to property is about taxes, right? And so when I see vacant houses and vacant buildings, that means that the property taxes are not being paid. And so what is the city doing to come up with different revenue streams to bring that money in to help with the roads and bridges? And the second part of it also, let me say this also. I heard someone say that Jackson contracts out their street and bridges and all of that kind of stuff. But then I also think about how are they going to get the money to pay for their own, road and construction and whatever city public works that is. And I think that's what's hindering them, having to contract out, because when you subcontract out, you're almost you're prisoners to what they're charging you, as opposed to having your own team in place, paying them a set of wages to come in and day out. And when you're subcontracting, you have to you're at the disposal of their schedules. But the good, you and I are back, bro.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We have some comments here. Can we put those comments back on the board? Let's see what we got going on, okay? We have some people on YouTube. Greetings from Fort Lauderdale. Hello from Darlington, South Carolina. Hello, Miss Greg. Hey, Dre Magic. Hello from ATL. Hey, them Thomas boys. Hello from Atlanta. How you guys doing? You guys are not here in Jackson, but definitely comment on some of the things that are being shared. Laimond, I want to dive in now. I want to dive in, and I want to ask you something.
I can't swim, man, so
very
don't go too
important.
deep.
How do you feel about voting, and how can we reach more young voters? And first of all, how do you honestly feel about voting? Do you think voting is effective? Do you think voting is something that we need to focus on? Because let's be real. Let me retract a bit.
Come on with it.
Do we need better leadership in your eyes in Jackson?
Well,
from what we see, do we need better leadership?
We need something. If it's leadership. Leaders are the ones who make things better in the city, if that's what you mean. You know what, man? And I'm gonna convict myself. I voted in Dallas at the end, and so I haven't established citizenship here with a residence here to vote. But I need to get out and start voting.
You have
myself.
time.
Yes. Well, you said I haven't had time?
You have time.
Yeah, I do. I do have time. And so I need to make time for that. Just like I said before, man, it's going to take some community leaders to get out. And here's the thing. Education is everything. We need to educate the young voters or the young people here in Jackson about what their vote means. I think everything, what is it when you give a person some, what's the term we're looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? A reward. Mm-hmm. What's the reward of them voting? It's another term, but I'll use the word reward. Mm-hmm. What's the reward? So kind of giving them an incentive is the word I want to use. What's the incentive for them voting? And so once you start giving them incentives, then I think you can probably get more people, the young people, to vote. But if you're not giving them any incentives, you're not really telling them what their vote means or how it counts, where it stands, then why would they come out? Because they're still saying the same things. Go ahead, bro.
A part of Open House Vision is that we do galvanize the new voters, that we do recruit and sign up voters, not to tell them who to vote for, but to help them come up with some type of regimen, some type of standard for the people who are running for these offices, to make sure that they've given them some type of thorough investigation, I would say, a thorough interview, that they would be a great candidate to lead this city out of some of that bad, ugly, and good that we just talked about. Now, if these people can't reach your standard, why would you even, everything that we do, in any type of class, any type of office, you go through an interview process. I think the interview process with our voting is not as extensive, great word, extensive as it needs to be.
I get out a word every now and then. I get out a good one. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because our city is in a shambles. And so now I'm going to ask you, how important is voting to you? Because I do believe that your voice is your vote, and your vote is your voice. And when you put voices together, you're unstoppable. You feel the anointing when people are on one accord, saying the same thing, thinking the same thing. And I think that part of the demise in our city is that people are not on the same page. So if we can get a majority of new voters on the same page, thinking the same thing, better Jackson, better city, better outer limits of the city, I think some things will break. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can't elaborate as eloquently as you did. As far as the young voters, what's the question now? What is your question?
Lisa Foster says Jackson needs a district vision and a mission to see it through. My question is, how do you feel about voting? And I explained that voting is their voice, voice is their voting. How do you feel like that is important as far as moving forward? I know I shared that they should have a standard and all that, but what's your vision on voting? What's your take on that? What's your standpoint on that?
Yeah, I mean, in thinking about it right now, it's very important, because if I'm not part of the solution, then I'm part of the problem. And if I'm not voting for what I think I would like to see, then why am I complaining? So it's very, very important. And not only that, just like we share bad information, we can share good information, right?
Yes.
So if I want to see the streets better in Jackson, then I might need to have a forum or get with my friends or city councilman, and I need to talk about this, and I need to continue to talk about it. And if it's not getting done, then I need to think about getting another city councilman, however they do that, the districts here. But I need to be involved. I have a voice.
You need to be involved.
I need to be involved.
So you don't wait till after the voting process. Now we get busy now. Like we have some candidates that are running for different offices that will be coming in on the straight report. I'm going to need you guys that are watching to give me some of those questions you have. I'm going to have an outline. I'm going to have some things that I want to ask them, and there are going to be some things that they want to say. But what are you saying any different to the people that will help them understand that you are the best candidate? Because right now, we honestly need for either our leadership to come together and work more together, or we need for them to move out of the way so new blood can come in. Okay? So that's my take on that. Laimond, I want to ask you something.
I'm worried, brother.
Do you feel like you are a leader?
I'm getting there. Yes. I am a leader.
Okay, let me help you determine how you're a leader. You're going to answer this in 2 minutes. Ready?
Come on.
How did you feel about some of the issues and the trials and the challenges of Jackson, Mississippi being played out on national TV? How did that make you feel inside when you saw your city?
Embarrassed.
Say it loud.
Embarrassed because
you're a leader. You're a leader because you care about a city that you weren't even living in. You lived in Carthage, you lived in Houston, you lived in Dallas. You're a leader because you bled out for the city. I was in Miami minding my own business. You guys hear this story several times. You're going to keep hearing it from me. And I felt the city of Jackson. I felt that I need to come back. And now a year or so later, we are working in programs. We are working businesses. We are creating opportunities. And it's not as fast as we want, but maybe it will be faster if some people will come alongside of us and maybe co-labor with us in this. The Bible declares, there's a principle that said, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yes.
So you said you need to be involved, right?
Sure,
so
absolutely.
again, let's go a little further. How did it make you feel? You said embarrassed. Why were you embarrassed?
Because this is where I'm from, man. And when people ask me where I'm from, I say Jackson, Mississippi. And some of the responses, oh, you from Jackson? The look that that people give you when you say that, it made it seem like that we still in 1812 somewhere, or 1865, and so being a Jacksonian, and I'm gonna rep this city to the day I die, man. I wanna be able to say it proudly, and I want people to to respond to me saying it. Oh yeah, that's a nice city. They're doing some good things in Jackson. But whenever we had to freeze, I just remember people are watching CNN, man, and people for days and almost months still going to a truck getting water, and I mean, come on, this is 2022. Why are we still doing that in 2022, going to a truck for 30 days to get water, and so those things were embarrassing, man.
Do you think there's a lack of a sense of urgency? Real quick, you got 10 seconds.
Absolutely. What if the people that actually had the water, what if they didn't have the water? How do you think they would feel? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you tapped and tuned in. You don't want to miss this last segment. Please go ahead, share, like, and love this channel right now, CW-TV on Facebook and YouTube. You're tapped and tuned into the Straight Report, no chaser. And I think you better put a seatbelt on. It's about to be a bumpy ride. See you when we get back.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
We're back. You tapped and tuned in to the Straight Report. Listen, on YouTube, we have a comment. I also want to clarify that Lisa Foster said Jackson needs a distinct vision, not a district vision, and a mission to see it through. Got you, Miss Foster. Appreciate your support. Ms. Tara Gregg says, I think some younger people don't understand how important it is because our parents taught us to vote a particular party and didn't tell you why. Ms. Tara Gregg, I'm going to tell you they don't even know why. We have a sense of hypnotism and we're in a trance. It's like we have been under a spell for a long time. Even things that we know don't get us good results, we continue to recycle that in our children's mind. I'm going to say this, and we're going to go to Mr. Laimond Dismuke's top three, okay? We're going to go to his top three, and we're going to ride this thing on out. But I was telling a young person today, why is it a young person and a young lady today was sitting out at one of our sites in the field that we were doing with some distribution, okay? And I said to them, why is it that parents are steady pressing for their young people to go to college, their students, their children? They're pressing for their children to go to college. And Brother Dismuke, you can jump in on this when I share this statement. Why are we pressing for our young people to go to college where if there was 100 people with degrees, 95 of them are not working in the arena that they got their degree in? Why are we still pressing that college is the way? Why are we still celebrating when they turn that tassel and you know that it was hard as I don't know what for you to go and convince somebody to give you a job even after you went and paid all that money, got all those loans, and now you got this degree, and it look good on the wall, and it's a good conversation piece, but it doesn't give you the autonomy and the authority that entrepreneurship gives you. But yet, so many of us are mesmerized by the HBCU or the private school, PWI, or going to an Ivy League school. We are brainwashed into thinking that our children graduating and having a picture of the wall on them with the tassel, and they turn in the tassel and they graduated, yay, they graduated. But yet there's hell, I say H-E to the double L, hockey sticks on the other side of getting that degree, because now you still got to convince somebody to hire you. Why is it that we're still doing that? But Laimond, please share your viewpoint on that, and then share us your top 3 of what needs to happen in Jackson right here, right now. Go ahead and share, please.
There's a statistics that says that the higher your degree is, the more money or income you will create or will make for yourself. That's just a degree. I mean, that's the statistic. And everything we do, especially in my field, social services, is based on statistics. Second part of that, everything we do in life is based on belief systems. Somebody
break that down.
Belief system, meaning my belief drives me. Whatever I believe, whatever I think is conducive for me, that is what drives me. Matter of fact, it's a part of who I am. Everything I do. My grandmama told me this. My daddy said this. And certain belief systems I have, even though 30 years later that I know are not conducive to me, I still live like that. I'm not saying me, but because my grandmama told me. That's what we say. I hear people say, my grandmama told me this. But have you ever thought about evaluating the belief system? How beneficial? Is it detrimental? Things of that nature. My top 3. But Jackson, right? Man, revenue stream. If
that's where you start.
Yeah, revenue
Let's
stream.
Go.
How does Jackson incorporate more revenue stream? Okay, if we know we have dilapidations in neighborhoods, and we know we have abandoned houses and all these things, how do they go about? Here's the thing: how do we entice the Amazons and all those companies or whatever we need to come here to bring revenue to Jackson?
That's a great point.
Can I read something right quick?
Sure.
You gave me this book, and I wanted to read this excerpt. And this is for me, but this is also for the question as well.
What's the title of the book?
The title of the book is called The Science of Being Great by Wallace D. Wattles. Great book. It says, Chapter 5, Preparation. You can never become a great man or woman until you have overcome anxiety, worry, and fear. It is impossible for an anxious person, a worried one, or a fearful one to perceive truth. All things are distorted and thrown out of their proper relations by such mental states, and those who are in them cannot read the thoughts of God. Second point, if you're in office and if you're scared, if you have anxiety, or you're worried about what somebody else is going to say about a decision you make, then you cannot be a great leader. You cannot be a great official if you have fear.
I think some of our officials have fear. The revenue stream is genius, and we're doing our share of creating economic opportunity in and throughout the city of Jackson. The second thing that you talked about that I really want people to understand is that he just read a passage, right? I noticed that we have a brief attention span now because of social media. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to recommend that you pick up a good book and read. If you don't have, I have a list. We have a list of them. We can share about 40 books with you right now that can change your mindset, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. Until Jackson changed the way they look at things, some of those dilapidated houses, that's revenue streams. They can make money off of some of these dilapidated houses. They can literally create some type of economic system or some type of buyback system or some type of, we put in these houses, we know where they are, you can go on the land roll, you can find them, you can pay the taxes, you can wait to whatever. But if that system is not moving those dilapidated houses soon enough, why not revise the system? You have the power to change laws. What's your top 2? What's your number 2 now?
No,
that's
3.
your top 1,
no,
revenue
3,
stream.
3 revenue streams, and my second was the fear, not being afraid of.
Not being a fearful leader.
Yeah.
So number 1, revenue streams. We need to figure out a way to create more revenue streams in the city of Jackson. Number 2, you can't be a fearful leader. What's your number 3?
Town hall meetings. How about we go out in the community and bring citizens in to wherever they're comfortable in the neighborhood, and let's hear what they got to say about their neighborhood. What do they think? Because everything, so we know you can't come in and just tackle Jackson as a whole. Each neighborhood needs its own thing. Let's have more town hall meetings so we can hear from the citizens in the neighborhood of what they need. because that's their neighborhood. At the end of the day, that's
So
their
what if I
neighborhood.
was to say to you, I went to a couple of town hall meetings and that people came in and voiced their concerns. Some of them were emotional. Some of them were angry. Some of them were upset. They had right to be. Some of them had lost their children. Some of them had children locked up. Some of them had children that had got murdered. Some of them had police in their neighborhoods, unwanted in their neighborhoods because they're bullying people. Some of them had different things going on, right? But at the end of the day, it seemed like the people just came and vented and nobody did anything with the notes.
Okay.
Meaning no one took the notes and said, these things need to change. So let me add something to the fearful leader thing that you said, number 2.
Okay.
You can't have a fearful leader, but you also can't have a leader that doesn't listen to the voice of the people.
That's true.
Jackson, Mississippi, I'm putting you on notice that there are leaders out here and they're coming. And they're coming because they care about the people. And I myself will do everything in my strength and in my power to make sure that I support those people that have Jackson, Mississippi here, and they're thinking with a business mind here, because the time for what has been going on is over. You have people that God is calling back to this city. You may not want to believe it, you may want to play games, and you may be judging the people that God then brought back. You may be judging Laimond because of his past. You may be judging me because you think you know my past, but you have no idea the God that we serve. He's a junk collector. He's collected so many things and brought so many things back. There are people outside of Jackson that are donating and giving money and financing projects here in Jackson more than the people of Jackson. So, Brother Laimond, let me make sure we don't have any comments. Somebody say, absolutely, got
That's
it.
my turn. Hold on, they still in my line.
Okay, so watch this. And you got about 2 minutes to play with this, right? 2.5
May not
minutes,
take
right?
that long.
You ready? What makes you feel that you needed to be back here?
Initially, I just knew this was home. This is a place I could come and kind of regroup and be reborn. But
You had no idea I was here.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. Well, my daughter had told me that you had been asking about it, but I didn't know you were here. To answer your question, man, I have a servant's heart. And I came back, man, and at this point, especially after, you and I talking and kind of bonded again, I'm here to serve, man. I'm here to serve with you side by side, man, and whatever I'm called to do, fear and all, I'm overcome it, and I'm here to serve. Whatever position I'm needed in Jackson, Mississippi while I'm here to serve.
You're the same young man that when you heard somebody said, help my brother, you dropped everything you were doing at a house party, and you came around, and there was a nickel-plated 9mm or some type of gun that was cocked and pointed directly at me, and yet you, Rodney, my sister, and Ira Vaughn came and helped me. You guys still stood in front of a gun, and now 30 years later, you're saying you here to serve side by side for the city of Jackson.
I don't know if I'm standing in front of more guns and standing in front of any more guns than you, but yeah, I am,
Brother
bro.
Dismuke, let me ask you this, and you got a minute.
Okay.
When I say to you the statement, if not now, then when? If not us, then who? What do you think about when I say that?
I mean, we're in the fight right now, bro. Ain't no need of looking around. There is no need to look around for others, man. You made the statement, you said it enough. We are both back here for a reason. We'll figure it out together, man. Well, we know the reason. We're gonna figure it out exactly what we are supposed to do as we go.
Well,
How much of what we need to do.
I'm going to say this before we get out of here. Brother, I love you, man. I appreciate you.
Love you too, Foster.
I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate you always being a brother. I'm going to say to you that I see the leader in you that I always saw. Now I know that that leader has been discovered by you. Jackson, Mississippi, get ready. We're going to shake up the city. We're going to shake up the leadership. We're going to shake up the youth leadership. We're going to shake up new voters, and we're going to serve this city. This city will not be right until we get a servant's heart. No more big eyes, no more little U's. We are here for the city of Jackson. What say you? If not now, then who? If not us, then who? If not now, then when? You've been tapped and tuned into the Straight Report, and I have my brother Laimond Dismuke.
Thanks for having me back, Jackson, Mississippi.
Any finishing statements, sir?
No, man, I'm grateful to be here, man. Grateful to be with you, brother. I thank the city for having me back. Wherever the city needs me, I'm here to serve.
If not now, then when? If not us, then who? Let's go, Jackson, Mississippi. It's the Straight Report. Next report, I will have some political leaders coming in. I won't share any names now. They will come in a systematic order. You're going to get a chance to pick their brains and see what are they going to do differently for the city of Jackson. I want to shout out my producer tonight, Big C.
Big C.
Thank him for all that he does. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you share, like, and love Cwu-Tv. Make sure you follow at Open House Vision TV and Open House Vision. Tap and tune in. See you next week. Get out of here.